Okay, recording is on. We can begin.
Thank you, Christian, and good afternoon, everyone. Hope everyone is surviving and perhaps even thriving in these times. Welcome to the meeting of the Financial Services Regulatory Sandbox and Innovation Council. It is currently 4:05 p.m. on May 14th. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Mr. Washington, would you take the roll, please?
Yes. Okay. Shahar Abrams.
Here.
Okay. Omar Al-Alami.
Here.
Julian Alcazar.
Here.
Marquis Allen.
Present.
Salman Banai.
Present.
Elizabeth Ergubian. Elizabeth Ergubian. Jigar Gandhi.
Here.
Thomas Hampton. Thomas Hampton. Renee Johnson. Renee Johnson. Laura Kaplan. Laura Kaplan.
Yeah, here. Hi.
Okay. Drew Maloney.
Here.
Casey Malden. Casey Malden. Treasure McLean.
Here.
Erica Miles. Erica Miles. Lindsay Parker. Lindsay Parker. Courtney Robinson. Courtney Robinson. Joshua Rosenthal.
Here.
Joseph Vardner. Joseph Vardner. Dana Shepard.
Here.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, you have a quorum, and some who did not respond have reached out that they would be running a bit behind, so we'll update the attendance as necessary, but you have a quorum.
Okay, thank you. So the first order of business on the agenda is to review and approve the minutes from the last meeting. Did everyone get a chance to look at the minutes? They were sent out this morning. If you haven't, we can take a minute and people can review them if they haven't already. Would anyone like a couple of minutes to look them over, or are we ready to approve them? Okay, well,
Move to approve. Second.
Okay,
you have to do another roll call vote.
I do. Just as a reminder, since we're operating virtually, any vote that takes place, we do have to do a roll call vote. I know we had been doing, unanimous consent, which worked fine when we were meeting physically, but our Office of Open Government requires that any votes that any of our councils and boards take during this time, we have to do a roll call. So we'll go back through the roll. The vote is on the approval of the minutes from the April 2nd meeting. Shahar. You can just say yes or no. Okay. Omar.
Yes.
Julian.
Yes.
Marquis.
Aye.
Salman.
Yes.
Jigger.
Yes.
Laura.
Here. Yeah.
Okay. Drew.
Yes.
Treasure.
Yes.
Josh.
Yes.
Dana.
Yes.
The minutes are approved unanimously.
Yeah, thank you, everyone. Next up is old business. We heard from I believe it was the structure committee at the last meeting, and I believe we have a report from the structure committee. But at this time, I'd like to ask each of the committees if they would like to have designate someone to provide an overview of what they have done since the last meeting, and no particular order. Whoever wants to go first would be fine. Just identify yourself and your committee, please.
This is Josh Rosenthal reporting out for the market committee. We had a conversation a couple of weeks ago identifying some areas of potential markets where Sandbox participants, where industry participants might be interested in a sandbox, and we highlighted a few of those particular segments, including payments and remittances, lending, insurance, credit scoring, small business services, personalized and open banking, as well as a recognition of the value in connecting with consumer groups in thinking about which markets might be most appropriate for the sandbox. We've already started on some efforts to have either one-on-one or group conversations with individual participants in those markets. But if anyone else on the council has a either an existing incumbent business or a startup in the financial space that might be interested in the sandbox and for whom it might be useful for us to talk, we'd be happy to connect with them, and feel free to reach out to me or any of the other members of the committee to let them to make that connection so that we can have those conversations. The one thing that we did identify in our discussions is that that we were interested to hear more from the structure committee about what exactly we could be offering potential participants in the sandbox, so that the markets that the sandbox is available to match up well to whatever the structure and potential opportunities the eventual sandbox would provide. And it seemed that that's a set of questions that the structure committee is in the middle of working through.
Good. Thank you. Anyone else from either the structure committee or the legislative regulatory committee would like to present?
Hey, Dana, this is Marquis, speaking for the Sandbox Structure Committee. A lot of the elements that we touched on our last update were ongoing tasks. So we've been continuing to research potential sandbox vendors, participants in the sandbox, incentivization methods, and the like. It's all detailed in the report for the past period of time. I did get some confirmation from at least one vendor, Block Apps, who is willing to meet with FSRSIC or Sandbox Structure Committee to give a presentation on their platform and their case history. I've spoken to at least one of the potential participants from First National Bank. And as you can imagine, they don't want to commit to participating, but are very interested in the opportunity. So they wanted to learn more information. I sent them the mayor's order so that they could peruse it, and also invited them to similarly come and present any of their services or offerings that they feel would be a worthwhile contribution to the effort. We are looking for one of the things that we did contrive when we had our last structure meeting is we'd like to solicit feedback from the council on any specific items we should cover regarding the participant application process as we look at the precedents of such a thing and decide on a format. So this is the mechanism that we might employ to vet out participants, what we're expecting of them, basically what things these potential contributors need to adhere to or contribute in order to be part of the sandbox. So we did want to solicit some of that feedback from the council. Our next Sandbox Structure Committee meeting is next Friday. Our Structure Committee meetings are open to anybody on the council that wants to just listen in or contribute. And so, we have the published bridge lines. Just feel free to jump on next Friday at 4 p.m. And there was one other thing that it completely went out of my head because I'm doing this off the top of my head, not looking at the status report that we created. But I think those are the major points. Oh, we did make some headway on researching legal precedent of sandbox legislation in 17 states and the federal government. And we're working off of a matrix in order to review and deep dive into how all of the different legislative efforts in these states could apply to DC creating similar legislation. All these are ongoing tasks, and we certainly welcome other members of the council to give us their feedback.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Anyone from the Legislative Regulatory Committee? Okay. So thank you both for your update. I'm wondering I know I saw in the report that the Structure Committee submitted that there are some things that they have that they plan to do in the coming weeks. So, I mean, it's good to hear that. Is there anything specific that either the Structure Committee or the Market Committee would like from either department staff or from any of the other committees that they need or would like to have?
Yeah, this is Omar from the Market Committee, and I have a question for Marquis, just to emphasize Josh's point. We'd like to understand just a little bit more about Marquis, what the committee is trying to achieve from a structural standpoint. So 2 clarifications sought here. You mentioned vendors. What would they be vending? Is it kind of a blockchain platform for companies in the sandbox to connect to, or is it the application piece? That's one. And then the other, I know you mentioned blockchain vendors. Are there any vendors for AI or anything else that we need to do from a structural standpoint?
So yeah, oh wait, am I on? Can you guys hear me? I want to make sure I'm not on mute. So yeah, we've been talking to sandbox vendors in the blockchain space, particularly those that have had experience in creating sandboxes, to give the construct that I guess innovators or technologists can come and log into and would have all of the tools that potential participants would need access to with regard to like data libraries, software developer kits, those type of things. We haven't been looking too much at people to do well, although the vendors that we did talk to that had that were blockchain as a service kind of technologies did have an interest in possibly developing solutions on the platform. But really, we're looking for how to build. And to answer your overarching question, we think that our mission is to really map out all of the mechanisms by which the sandbox is governed. So all the technical aspects of where it's going to be hosted, who's hosting it, who has access, how do we create access, how do we manage access, what should we expect as far as output from the participants, what kind of projects will they be creating. I think we've all decided, or I think the tendency is that everything that is created is going to be of some kind of fintech or insurtech flavor. But we're really trying to get a handle on, okay, we got a sandbox. Where do people go to get into the sandbox? How are you going to log in? What kind of security is there? How long can they access it? And then how does the council decide on who gets to participate? Like, what are the criteria that we'll put in front of potential participants to say, hey, you know, do you guys meet all of these qualifications, or have you had successes in building these kinds of solutions in the past, and et cetera?
That's very helpful, Marky. Good to know. And I'm curious, from a technology standpoint, what technologies we're looking to cover. And I know our goal is not regulating the technology per se, but if we're trying to prove a product that's inclusive or solves a certain problem, you know, is there going to be testing with AI, for example?
Well,
or other technologies?
Well, those are things that we may want to write into, you know, the I guess the goal of the sandbox. I know that the mayor's order spoke specifically about blockchain, and it kind of cursorily mentioned some of those other innovations like AI. So I don't know. I mean, but if we decide, hey, we want people to come in and build a blockchain solution with an artificial intelligence or machine learning component to it, then that might be one of the conditions that we specify. It might be possible that some of these solution providers can only build a blockchain solution working with the types of data sets that we're talking about, if they leverage some kind of an AI component. So it's all really kind of up in the air, and that's where we're looking for some feedback from the council on how they think we should go about bringing people into the effort, and it might be something that we do in stages, right? It might be we bring somebody in to build a blockchain solution for some financial service. And then if everything goes well with the pilot and everybody that's participating agrees that it's a success in the continuing improvement, maybe they decide, hey, with the sheer volume of data, we need artificial intelligence because humans can't parse through the data or whatever. Maybe that's a step two. So yeah, it's really, especially because we are all kind of contriving what the construct will be, we can make it so that participants can deal in whatever technology we deem is beneficial.
So great, that's great. And could part of the answer, or maybe the bulk of the answer, come from kind of our interviews with the different prospective participants?
Yeah,
gotcha.
that's what we're thinking. Yeah, we think that once we get the word out, once we have all of the I's dotted and T's crossed, as it were, about what the sandbox is trying to do, what's in it for participants, what can they expect to get out of it, you know, what can they expect to give to the district in exchange for the opportunity, then we could start going to people directly and say, hey, we want you to, or we want to get you interested in this opportunity to build with a federated learning platform or something like that. You know, I think at this point, since we're just putting ideas to paper, the sky's really the limit.
Gotcha.
Hey, Marquis. Sorry, Solomon. Go ahead. So, Marquis,
You go ahead. I'll jump in later. Go for it.
All right, sure. So, Marky, I just had a quick question. So the thought process is not to pick a vendor, and we're thinking of more building out a structure for vendors to apply to themselves, and then if they suit whatever structure we build, we move forward, as opposed to us proactively going and picking vendors. I just want to clarify which the committee was thinking of there.
So and that's a good question. If we already have a methodology that we're thinking of, so for instance, and some of this are tasks that are on our list of action items. One of them is to go back to the district's IT function and find out what kind of technology we have available without going to outside vendors. Do we have server space? Do we have security mechanisms where we can house all of this within the boundaries of the district's enterprise, rather than farming out the Sandbox construct to a vendor? We don't have anything set in stone that we think that this vendor or that vendor should host the Sandbox. But until we get those other questions answered on what we have in our inventory and what we can leverage for this project in-house, we're looking at all of the different possibilities that kind of fall in our lap, where people say, hey, I'm interested, or hey, we've done that kind of thing, or hey, Marquis, I heard that you're working on a Sandbox jam. We did that kind of thing, with this entity. But nothing has been decided. And I think that all of the findings that the different committees come up with, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, I think the goal is to bring our findings to the overarching council, and then everybody in the council decides yay or nay on what the findings are, So we're looking at all avenues, and we're certainly open to any prospect. If you have a particular avenue that you think we should investigate, those are the kinds of feedback that we'd like to hear, so we can start hunting it down.
Anyone else have any questions or comments? All right. Well, this is.
I have a quick question for the staff members. We, as Josh mentioned, we identified kind of multiple kind of types of participants, such as payments and remittances, lending, insurance, credit scoring, small business, open banking, and then consumer groups. And I'm curious to see kind of if we can get an answer from the staff on whether a remittance company, for example, will be able to practice under the Sandbox or lend under the Sandbox, and what have you. And so, are there any sectors that are off, out of scope, or any sectors or not?
So there are no sectors or industries that are that would be offhand just excluded. So we would certainly be open to any opportunity. It may be. I'll try to answer it a different way. I know that particularly the mayor's office would be most interested, if at all feasible, to kind of look toward maybe solving a particular problem, creating some opportunities, particularly around residents who are unbanked or underbanked, sort of, which we're talking about a payment app, and maybe that's already out there, but certainly if there's new ideas, new concepts, that would be something that would be interested to the mayor in terms of sort of lining up her economic development priorities with the Sandbox recommendation. That would be ideal. We also have been most recently and obviously kicking around what, if anything, the council could do to help with the response to COVID-19, whether that's reopening. Maybe it's just something as simple as streamlining the underwriting process for small loans. Those are kind of things that we would want to. So anything is on the table, but rather than try to figure out what we could do, we maybe should ask the question: what could we do that would be most productive and of value to the residents who need it most? So this is just a long way of saying that we're still open to many ideas. If so, we aren't and we aren't at this point really excluding anything.
All right,
And
thank you.
if I may, hello everyone. This is Commissioner Woods. I know it's been some time since I've joined you all, although Dana and Christian have been keeping me well updated as to your discussions to date. But I just want to add to Dana's comments, because I do think that we're at a unique juncture, as many of you know, and we've been having ongoing conversations internally at DISB and also at the executive level regarding ways in which we can come up with innovative ways to support residents, including small businesses. And I've been serving on the mayor's Retail and Small Business Reopen Committee. And so we've been having internal conversations about the Sandbox and how to think about its role and its utility depending upon the outcome of the report. And so I do want to encourage you all to think about ways in which this concept could serve vulnerable populations here in the district, in line with Dana's thinking around the unbanked, the underbanked, thinking about ways to serve and support small businesses as we are entering into a reopening phase. And so I just want to echo what Dana has said and encourage you to think along those lines, because it's definitely something that we're having a number of internal conversations about. And I think we have a unique opportunity through the Sandbox to do just that.
Thank you, Commissioner. Does anybody have any questions or comments?
Dana's Mike McManus, if I can add. So in most of the sandboxes that I've seen operating in many of the states, once the structure has been developed, and as you said, in most cases it's open to pretty much any industry and that sort of thing, then I think that, the heart of the question is, one of the purposes of the Sandbox is to figure out where you can give relief in terms of regulatory relief and that sort of thing to accommodate a new and fresh idea. So, that's one of the bases of the Sandbox.
Right. So we definitely will the legal committee and eventually the whole council will have to look at what modifications we would make to our current laws and regs and make sure we have appropriate guidelines, guardrails up for consumer protection. So yes, so we definitely will have to cover that at some point. Anyone else have anything? Well, this has been a great discussion. And
Dana, I'm sorry, this is Marquis. I just have one real quick question. I don't know if we ever confirmed. I know from the last time we spoke that we had decided as a group to push back the due date for the deliverables of the report to the mayor from June to December. But did we get confirmation that that was okay, or do we need confirmation? Or
yeah, we will need confirmation. I was actually going to bring that up a little later, but since you brought it up now, let me say this. I understand, given all we're going through, that June is probably not realistic at this point to finish the report. But I would throw out to the group for discussion whether or not we could do this by September. And the reason for that, a couple of reasons. Obviously, we'd like to do something. As Commissioner just said, we have a lot of need, and so obviously the sooner we could propose something and actually start to help with that effort would be better. And those of you who understand the way the government works, we if we need, we probably will need to do legislation, as Mr. McManus just indicated, to facilitate some of the opportunities, getting something finished and ready to submit to the council legislation. If we get a report done and get legislation drafted and to the mayor's office and over to the council, we would have potentially a shot at getting the law on the books in the fall. If we shoot for end of the year, then not only is that a long ways out in terms of wrapping this up, it doesn't really give us an opportunity to do any kind of legislation until sometime in 21. So if at all possible, we'd like to maybe revisit the idea of maybe trying to shoot for September. Commissioner, did you want to add anything to that?
I would just add that I agree. I definitely think that we should keep it within this fiscal year. So then we can work on implementation in FY21. And so I think a good strategy would be to deliver on the report by September of this year.
So before, I don't know that we could certainly have, if anyone wants to share some thoughts about that, feel free to do so. We can talk about that for a few minutes. I don't know if we need to decide today, but we probably should decide pretty quickly. Does anybody have any comment about the September delivery for the report?
This is Mark Key. At the risk of talking too much during this meeting, if I have something with the due date of September, it stands to reason I'll work on it more diligently than if I have a due date in December.
I agree. I second that, Marky. I'm right behind you, man.
And my main bailiwick is in healthcare, and so I'm doing blockchain technology in healthcare and doing some innovations there. And they're all over with their COVID-19 response. And I have a bunch of different things that are pulling for my attention. But this is important because this helps my city. So I would really like to see us have a little bit more aggressive timeline. At least try to keep it a little bit closer to where we were at. I know that the pandemic kind of threw everything for a loop, but I for one think that if we aim for end of third quarter, I would do my best to make that.
Great. Anyone else?
And that also works for me as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Treasurer. Thank you. Anyone else? Anybody opposed to trying to shoot for September? So one of the things that Christian and I have been talking about, and is to maybe start with some legislation. It could be Arizona, it could be something else, and try to build, or at least start on that part of the drafting that would allow for enough flexibility to pursue an opportunity, even if we haven't quite nailed down what exactly we plan to do, but at least start the drafting and have people look at that, so that that could sort of help them, give them some ideas of what it would maybe look like, and we could just have a discussion about trying to get that in place, so we get to September that's ready to go. We don't have to start drafting in September. So would that be helpful to the group to see legislation? I'm sure many of you have looked at other laws already, but would it be helpful if we started working on that internally and then share that with the group as we go?
Hey, Dana, this is Jigger. I think that's a great idea.
Okay. Anyone else? Does anybody have a particular? We have spent a lot of time looking at Arizona, but we're not necessarily wedded to that. Does anybody have any other suggestions? Because Christian and I and the staff will work on this. So does anybody else have anything they would like for us to look at, another state or even another country?
Well, you have Wyoming. So on February 15th, Governor Mark Gordon signed HEA number 0034 into law, which created the Sandbox for testing of financial products and services. And so it limits the waivers and specific statutes and rules under certain conditions. The only Wyoming dressed this up as a job creator, but at the same time, they have faced challenges because no company really wants to relocate to Wyoming. And I think that DC, a place that I've called home for 10 years, would have the opposite, right? Like, I think companies would actually want to come to DC and relocate, because that's one of the things in the Wyoming legislation is that these companies, in order to take advantage of it, they have to relocate to Wyoming. So they either have to create a second headquarters or just pick up and leave from wherever they're at and stay in Wyoming. And it has a time horizon as well. So they have to be in Wyoming for a certain number of years after they get this approval.
Okay, great. Well, we'll definitely take a look at Wyoming. Anyone else have any suggestions, comments? Great. Well, we have a guest who has joined us, Commissioner. I'm happy to introduce him, or you can if you'd like. Who has just not a formal presentation, but just like to have a conversation and share some ideas that he has.
I'll just briefly share. Hello again, everyone. This is Commissioner Woods. As Dana mentioned, we have a guest, and some of you may know him. I've asked Kevin Morgan from the Washington, D.C. Economic Partnership, who's the Director of Tech Sector Attraction and Engagement here in the city, to join today's call. I've had the benefit of working with Kevin over the years. Particularly, we've served on the Mayor's Tech and Inclusion Council. I know that he is someone that is very steep in the entrepreneurial community and really has a good sense of a number of key verticals focused on tech entrepreneurs, particularly in the areas of blockchain and financial services and innovation. So I asked him to join today's call to listen in and to hopefully join on some of the future calls. And so with that, Kevin, did you want to say anything? I know you've been listening in on today's call.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much, Commissioner Woods. And I appreciate Dana as well, just being a part of this and listening. And as the Commissioner said, kind of served as liaison to the tech sector in partnership with the Deputy Mayor's Office through the DC Economic Partnership, and have hosted a lot of roundtables. One group of which is really active in the district is focused on fintech, blockchain, and a lot of this space. And then also with the work that I'm doing now as the chair of the subcommittee for workforce on the Innovation Technology Inclusion Council is kind of where does this map over into some of the needs immediately with respect to what's going on in the city with economic inclusion and access and things like that. So really a pleasure to be here and happy to share offline, outside kind of the conversations and things that I've done over the last few years and what is happening kind of in the district. Since we also have, in addition to the federal space, we have a local, some blockchain and fintech incubators, as well as some of the global international agencies that are headquartered here that are really working on a lot of these issues. So thank you very much, and it's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you, Kevin. Let me ask you, having listened to the discussion about the Reopen DC effort and banking and payments and whatnot, do you have any thoughts about or have any experience currently or previously with any clients that maybe in that space that maybe could be useful that the group may want to talk to?
I do. The Global Blockchain Business Council is headquartered here in the district, and they're really looking at global regulatory frameworks. FinClusive, FINCLUSIVE is the head of that, the CEO. It's based here in DC, and it's really looking at taking innovative financial products to underserved communities. He was the chief of staff in, I believe, Treasury. He was more on the anti-money laundering side, but they were engaged in some of the regulatory and sandbox work. And I also know some of the international organizations are really looking at how sandboxes are used globally along kind of 4 objectives. One is the innovation piece, which I believe Wyoming and innovation and competition, but really I think 2 key pieces that we have in the district, both on the need side in terms of underrepresented groups, economic areas that are disadvantaged economically, is on the other 2 pieces, which are the consumer benefits and the financial inclusion, particularly traditional digital banking. Another was Fenway Sumner. We had a woman named Marla Blow who had her company based here, was looking at bringing financial instruments again to underserved and underbanked. She's now, I believe, head in New York working with MasterCard on some of these issues as well. So in terms of experts with local connection, those are 2 people immediately, as well as the Global Blockchain Business Council that could be, as people need sounding boards and things like that, would be open to those conversations.
Good, thank you. Thank you. Any of the council members have any questions for Kevin?
Hey, Kevin, this is Shahar. I'd be really interested in that financial inclusion, something that I'm very passionate about. And so I don't know if there's a way I could get your email, I could reach out to you, but I'd like to get those connections, see what
absolutely, happy to.
So, Kevin, is it okay if Christian circulates your contact information to the council members?
Please do. Please feel free to.
Okay, well, we'll get that out right away, and we encourage all the members to take advantage of Kevin and his connections and his knowledge of the district. And so, thank you. We appreciate your participation today. Hopefully, you'll be able to join us in future meetings, Kevin. Does anybody have? I think we're kind of coming to the end of the agenda. Does anybody have any other thing they would like to discuss?
No, but I appreciate the mayor's your articulation of the mayor's goals and focus. I think that's going to help because the fintech world is a big ocean to boil. It's helpful to get some guidance and focus here. So appreciate that.
Okay, great. Well, we hope that certainly we could come up with a proposal that would serve multiple goals, but certainly among them, most importantly, to help the residents to recover and to thrive in the post-COVID environment. I think that is sort of the end. As we mentioned, Christian and I will take a look at Wyoming and Arizona and see if there's any other laws, and we'll start drafting around that so we could share and maybe have a skeleton and start having the discussion about using that as a vehicle. And then we encourage you, of course, as always, I know you will, have the committees continue to meet in between our calls and try to drill down on some specific opportunities that would advance the project forward. And when we meet the next time, if there's anybody that, if we talked about this before, if there's any organization or individual that you think would be helpful to invite to one of the meetings so they can make a presentation to the entire council, please let Christian know so we can schedule that. if we're not wedded to the calendar, if there's a date that works better than the next meeting, we could try to figure out how to do that. If there's a person or organization that may not necessarily need to appear before the entire council, please feel free to engage with that person so that we can try to get as much information as we can and try to keep the process moving along. The staff will talk to the commissioner about the September date, and sounds like that was something that the members are in favor of. So we'll have to go about amending the current order that requires the report to be delivered in I believe it's the end of June, or I guess 6 months from the date we first met. So that would be June 18th. So we'll work on that. But that's a minor thing. But the most important thing is to try to keep moving forward with the work of the committees. So is there any other business to discuss today? When is the next meeting, Christian?
It's scheduled for 2 weeks, so it's scheduled for May 28th. We kept that because we were operating on the the schedule with delivering the report in June. I don't know if we need to maintain that since we're looking at trying to extend the time or not. The one after that would be June 11th.
So we can so what does the council think about the frequency of the meetings? Let's just start all over. I mean, is once a month appropriate, or should we meet more often? If we meet 2 weeks from now, is that too soon?
I think once a month for 2 hours is a good rhythm. It's Jigger speaking.
Thank you. Anyone else?
I agree.
So why don't we, Krista, does Thursdays at this time work for everyone? I know people at some point are probably going to be dying to go on vacation. But
Vacation? What's that? I'm on vacation now.
Okay, well, yeah, I'm glad you're enjoying it. So what we'll do is, we'll look at the calendar and we'll propose some dates starting roughly a month from now and through the summer, and circulate that, and we can nail that schedule down at the next meeting, or maybe I don't know, Christian, we can nail that down before. Do we have to approve the meeting schedule at a council meeting, or can we just do that informally by email?
We had been that's a good question. We set the initial schedule and then the council voted on it. And each time we've actually voted to make changes. So
okay. All right.
I think if we wanted to cancel 28th.
So can we set a meeting? Can we set the next meeting now, and then we could vote on the rest of the schedule when we meet again? Does that make sense?
I think so. I think if we want to stick to our 1 month time frame, you already had June 11th as the meeting after the 28th. So the only vote would be to cancel the 28th.
Okay. So if we have to, we'll I guess we have to do another roll call vote to cancel the next meeting. So before we do that, does the 11th of June, is that a good next meeting date? And then if so, we'll have the rest of the schedule for the summer when we convene on the 11th. Does the 11th work for everyone? Anybody have a problem with June 11th?
That works for me.
Okay.
It works for me also. Thank you.
Okay, great. So can we have a motion to cancel the meeting on May 28th?
Well, before we do it, just in the interest of saving maybe a second roll call, because then we'll have to move to adjourn and we'll do it over. Can we combine the motion? So a motion to cancel the 28th and adjourn if there's no further business?
But what if somebody doesn't want to adjourn? If they
That's
want
true. I mean, we don't have to. We don't have to.
I want to keep this going.
So let's try. Christian is a good idea. He's very efficient. So if someone could make a motion to cancel the meeting on the 28th and adjourn.
So
Am I
moved.
make the motion? Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
Am I make the motion to cancel on the 28th and to adjourn for
Yes.
today?
Treasurer, is that was treasurer?
Yes, it was. Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Second.
Marquis?
Seconded, yep.
Okay, very good. All right, we'll do the roll. And I know actually Renee and Courtney joined. Did any other council members join in the interim? Okay, if not, we'll proceed. Shahar?
Yes. Aye.
Omar?
Yes.
Julian?
Yes.
Marquis?
Aye.
Salmon?
Yes.
Digger?
Yes.
Nay?
If you said Renee, yes.
Yes. Okay. Laura?
Yes. Hi.
Drew? Drew, are you still on? Maybe not. Maybe not. Treasure?
Yes.
Courtney?
Yes.
Josh?
Drew's and I.
Drew's in. Okay, great. Going back to Josh?
Yes.
Dana?
Yes.
Motion carries unanimously.
All right. Thank you, everyone. And stay safe.
Thank you.
Until
The
next
meeting,
Thank you.
will adjourned at 4:57.
All right.
Thanks.
Thank you.